Hello again everyone and welcome to my next video. In today's video I will be discussing two rabbinical letters linked below which focus on both the prohibition of one Jew litigating against another Jew in civil court and on the flip side the disaster that unscrupulous dayanim inflict upon Jewish litigants through the use of treacherous arbitration agreements known as Shtar Berurim. I will begin today's video with an important message from this week's Torah portion, Parshas Mishpatim. In this parsha, which mostly discusses property law, we find that the very first pasuk reads as follows: Ve'ele ha-mishpatim asher tosim lifnehem. These are the laws that you must set before them. Rashi explains the word lifnehem to mean, do not seek these laws at the arkois, which means the secular courts. He goes on to say that anyone who uses the secular court is committing a chil Hashem, a desecration of Hashem's name, which is one of the worst sins that a Jew can commit. Regular viewers of this channel know that discussion of the corrupt practices of the 21st century Jewish jurisprudence is nothing new for me. In fact, I have made it my mission to warn people who have disagreements to not take their case to the secular courts, and especially not those who might unfortunately be going through marital problems. Using the secular court is a clear violation of Torah law, and it always ends up badly for everyone involved. Regular viewers of this channel will know that I've been pointing out time and time again that we've been seeing too many wayward women today being assisted by corrupt dayanim, Jewish judges, in litigating their divorces in these courts. Now, it just so happens that there have been two rabbinical letters circulating on the internet recently regarding this exact same subject. Having surely been aware that we are in the week of Parshas Mishpatim, the authors of these letters could not have had better timing in disseminating these messages to the public. So I thought it would be a good idea to present these letters to you in today's video. You can also see them for yourself in the description box below. I would be glad to highlight their salient points for you as well. But before I do that, I would like to point out something. If the first verse, or pasuk, in Parshas Mishpatim with Rashi's commentary isn't enough for the sleazy divorce racketeers, they now have these letters from contemporary learned rabbis to mull over, which corroborate the prohibition of litigating cases in the civil courts. They will also now be put on notice that everything I've been saying in the name of Rabbi Gestetner over the last 2 years is based solely in truth and in halacha. So without further ado, let us now begin to analyze letter number 1. From this letter, which is signed by at least 10 different rabbis, I wish to highlight 3 main points from this letter, and those are: Number 1, he who litigates in civil court is considered a rasha and a heretic according to halacha for violating the Torah. Number 2, one needs to be vigilant to only submit to a Bais Din that strictly rules by Torah standards only, and I emphasize a Bais Din that rules by strict halacha and not street politics. And number 3, people that assist the litigant to pursue his or her litigation in civil court are enabling the breaking of Torah law, and they themselves are considered violators of the Torah. I would emphasize point number 3 as to the biggest reason why we need to avoid a Bais Din today in matters of divorce. You see, the dayanim of today who give a green light to a woman who insists on litigating against her husband in the civil court are the same ones who absolve her from reimbursing him of the losses he sustains due to all of her anti-Torah litigation. By attacking and ridiculing a man who simply tries to stand up for himself and his halachic rights, they make themselves into Rishaim, evildoers, who are guilty of the same sin of those who litigate in civil court. A Jew should never allow himself to be judged by a wicked Dayan who lacks fear of heaven and judges corruptly. A true Bais Din is supposed to be not only a court of law, but also a house where Hashem's presence can be felt. We know this because the Torah refers to dayanim as Elohim, a word that we now that we know denotes Hashem, our God, but on the flip side, the word can also portend to foreign gods and idol worship. Yes, a judge who rules underhandedly is compared to an idol worshiper, and a Jew is prohibited from entering a house of idol worship. By avoiding these iniquitous Bais Dins, you will be spared from worshiping Avodah Zorah. And now it is time for us to get into the second letter. This letter, signed as it is by Rabbi Shlomo Miller and Rabbi Elyadov Wachvogel, warns the public about unscrupulous individuals who use nefarious arbitration agreements, otherwise known as Shtar Berurim. They employ these sinister devices by first entrapping the litigants into signing the document. After this deed is accomplished, it is smooth sailing for these deviants to do their dirty work. They are free to issue unjust rulings, which they later submit to the civil court for enforcement. It goes without saying that this causes the litigants immeasurable harm in that they lose all of their authentic halachic rights, resulting in soul-crushing and monumental financial loss. The letter's authors point out that many of these litigants have absolutely no idea of the great risk involved to them when they signed these devilish arbitration agreements. They mention that since many people have already fallen prey to these schemes, they are now coming out and warning the public to avoid putting their signature to these documents. In the letter, the rabbis quote the RAMBAM in chapter 2 of HILCHOS SANHEDRIN, HALCHOS 7. This is where the RAMBAM lists the 7 character traits that are required of Jewish judges. The Rambam's source of the number 7 is the Sifri. The implication of this list is that if a judge is missing a single one of these traits, he's presumably disqualified from being a judge. I have linked the Rambam in the description box so that those of you who wish to can study it for yourself in its entirety. But for the rest of us, I will list here all of the Rambam's 7 judicial traits, and they are wisdom, humility, fear of God, hatred of money, love of truth, love of people, and a good reputation. Some of these have their source in last week's Torah portion, Parshas Yisro, while others originate in Parshas Devarim. For the sake of brevity and the purpose of this video, I will only be discussing 2 of these traits. The first trait that I wish to discuss is found in Parshas Yisro. The Torah states that a judge must be from Anshe Chayil, men of Chayil. The word of Chayil has a few different meanings, and all of them have been cited by the Talmud or the Meforshim as describing what is to be expected of a judge. The Ramban explains that a judge needs to be a capable leader since Chayil translates as a large group of people. Rashi explains the word Chayil to mean wealth, so it follows that a Dayan needs to have plenty of assets in order to be able to judge independently so that he will never be bribed by anyone. The Rambam, however, explains Chayil to mean power. In other words, a judge must be a mighty individual in his dedication to the Torah. He goes on to say that the judge needs to possess a strong heart. He must be a courageous person who can save the oppressed from the hand of his oppressor. The second judicial trait that I will be discussing today also has its source in Parshas Yisro. The Torah states that a judge must be from Soine Botza, haters of Botza. Here again, there are a few different ways to explain what this word Betza means. Ramban explains it to mean that judges should be haters of fraud. He derives this from the fact that the previous part of the verse starts off with the phrase Anshe Emes, men of truth, which is immediately followed by the words Soine Botza, which implies that judges should be haters of deceit. The Rashbam, however, translates Betza as bribery, a clear admonition to judges that they need to go to any length to avoid going on the litigant's payroll. It is clear then that Soine Botza is related to Anshe Chayil, in that judges need to be of strong character to avoid these kinds of temptations. You must realize that the outcome of a crooked ruling in financial matters only results in the loss of money or property. On the other hand, a corrupt ruling in matters of divorce results not only in the loss of money, but also the loss of children, along with the serious sins of adultery and the creation of mamzerim. I would also add that although I have no experience myself in dealing with Bais Din in financial matters, the current state of affairs points to the realization that Bezdins dealing with monetary issues have much better credibility than those dealing with divorce. The bottom line is that the bar for judicial ethical standards is set much higher when it comes to family law. But as I have said many times before, most divorce bezdins today are a for-profit organization. If they would always issue rulings only according to the strictest halachic standards, they would go out of business in no time. That is because most of the women in divorce proceedings today would be placed in the category of moredes by the bezdin, and as a result would never be eligible to receive all of the spoils that they are currently getting from the unscrupulous bezdins. I explained this concept of moredes in some detail in one of my first videos, number 2, entitled Aguna, Get Meusa, Mamzer, and Moredes. For those of you who are new to this channel, I hereby pose to you the following question. Have any of you ever heard of a rabbinic judge who came forward and went to bat for a man who had been victimized by an unscrupulous Dayan, rabbi, or feminist NGO who falsely labeled him a get refuser? How about a judge who stood up for a man who had been shamed in public by these hooligans despite the man not having deserved even one iota of these actions according to halacha? Have you ever heard of a judge who berated a woman for litigating against her husband in the civil court after they both reached an agreement and he provided a get for her? After she caused him immense damage by reneging on that agreement and violated the precept of avoiding litigating against a fellow Jew in the civil courts? Well, I will bet you that you have never seen or heard of any such judge. That is because most, if not all, of the dayanim today only know how to strip the man of all his rights. Any man who was naive enough to believe the frauds who instructed him to give an early get learned the hard way when he got shafted, when he realized how badly he had been defrauded. He could only watch helplessly as these fraudsters stabbed him in the back. His plea to the rogue judges to save him from his vindictive ex, who had continuously been draining him of his financial resources through her incessant civil litigations and frivolous orders of protection applications, had fallen on deaf ears. So although most of you may never have heard of a powerful, fearless, and honest judge, regular viewers of this channel surely have heard of one, and he's none other than my own rabbi, Rabbi Gestetner. A few of my detractors have been busy trying their hardest to discredit Rabbi Gestetner and his Bezdin, but the issuance of these new letters is a boomerang that comes flying right back at them. I conclude now by offering my viewers a yardstick through which you yourselves can ascertain the legitimacy of any particular Bezdin. That yardstick is this. First, find out if your Bezdin has ever rebuked a woman for utilizing a civil court. Check to see if they made her pay back her husband for all the financial losses she caused him by her use of civil litigation before they even required him to attend the Bezdin session. I'm just letting you know that you will be very hard pressed to locate any such Bezdin. Most often you will come across a Bezdin that enthusiastically supports the woman's choice of using a secular court. Case in point is Avi Kahan and his perverse Bezdin, Vad Din V'Hara of New City, New York. Khan Kahan was caught saying on YouTube that the reason that he won't hold women accountable for using a civil court is because they don't learn Gemara. It is idiotic statements such as these which truly call attention to exactly what kind of level of heresy and deviousness permeates the throng of the dayanim class today. They will stoop at any level in order to manipulate the Torah for personal gain and to fit their agenda. Once again, I implore you to stay far away from these unscrupulous actors who are thoroughly unqualified to judge anyone. As we have seen, these phonies are disqualified by dint of the fact that they don't measure up to the RAMBAM standards. These people are self-appointed to these lofty positions without having been properly vetted by a panel of expert rabbis who would investigate their qualifications to judge people. So that is why I say to you, avoid the Dayan, and do a lot less crying. As always, thank you for watching and see you all in the next video.